Welcome to Passive Aggressive Income. This program may contain strong language. The content may not be suitable for audiences under the age of 17. We understand many of our listeners may not agree with all of our personal viewpoints. We in no way, shape, or form mean to be offensive to anyone. Our show notes will provide all of our source material included for each episode. Now let's get passive aggressive.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Passive Aggressive Income. We are your hosts, Lexi and Mims. And this week and next week is going to be more fun episodes since we're coming up on doing this podcast for a full year. We're going to sort of reintroduce ourselves for those of you who haven't been here since the beginning or don't really know our backstories. That's what this episode is going to be about.
Yeah. So today we will be touching on some of the same things that we touched on the first episode. We definitely have a lot of updates, so that's why we are doing this episode now.
Mhm.
So we are just going to reintroduce ourselves. So we are two Latinas living in the Midwest, if you guys didn't know that already.
Mhm.
My whole family's originally from Guatemala. I was born in Chicago and then I was raised in Wisconsin. So whenever somebody's asking me, where are you from? I'm like, I don't really know how to answer that because technically, like, I'm from here. I've lived here all of my life, but then I was
Mhm.
born in Chicago. I lived there for my childhood, but then my whole family is from Guatemala, and I think that's what they're asking me. So, like,
Just
I
a
don't know how
like
to answer that.
a roundabout way of being like, hey, your skin's a little darker. Where
Yes,
are you?
yes, exactly.
Yeah. So I was born and raised in Wisconsin. I currently live in St. Paul and I'm half Puerto Rican. So my mom's side is Puerto Rican. I still have some family there. I went to Puerto Rico over this last Christmas and I got to see my grandma for the first time since I was in
Oh,
middle school. I've only been there twice in my life. I feel like I really connected with that place. So yeah, it's really cool. Even though I'm like a Wisconsin, like Midwest girl, I definitely
right.
feel that connection.
Good. Yeah. When I went back to Guatemala, I'm just like, yeah, this is like, because a lot of people look like me, and
Hmm.
where we live here, not a lot of people look like me. So I'm just
No.
like, yeah, it was definitely nice going back to like your roots.
Right. Yeah, it's something that's just really special.
Right. So on top of doing our passive income streams, we are plagued with wanting to do creative hobbies. So I enjoy going to the gym. I love doing hot yoga. If I know I've like brought that up to some people before. Hot yoga is where you do yoga and it's like in a 95-degree room.
Hmm.
So you are like literally sweating, drenched in sweat the entire time. It's really, really liberating.
Yeah, I have been to hot yoga a couple of times.
Mhm,
Back when I lived in Wisconsin and before I stopped drinking, I would
mhm.
do hot yoga as like a hangover recovery. And
Oh, wow,
it
that is
was it was
intense.
very intense.
Yeah. So, I also like to restore furniture. I like to pick furniture that I find off of the side of the road, and I take it home if it's not broken. If it's ugly, I love that. I will go and, like, sand it down, refinish it, and then I would sell it. Another thing that I like to do, I'm part of book club, so I like to not necessarily read, but I listen to a lot of audiobooks because I can't sit down and read. There's something within my brain that I cannot sit down to do that. I don't know why, but I listen to a lot of books. Um, all sorts of different types of books. I like a lot of true crime. I also like to travel a lot. We take yearly out west trips, and I freaking love that. But also, we go out, leave the country to do other things as well. I also am working on a book, and I love to thrift and then resell on. Well, I guess that goes into my passive income stream,
Mhm.
but I
That's a
I
hobby
love
too.
thrifting.
Yeah. Yeah, I know you haven't talked a whole lot about your book on this podcast, but
Yeah.
I'm sure that's something we'll hear more about in later episodes, which is very
Yes.
exciting.
Yes.
Yeah, so like Mims, I'm also a very busy person who enjoys a lot of things. And sort of my main hobby that I've had for the past year and a half or so has been climbing and bouldering. So I've been on some really fun outdoor adventures, climbing large cliffs like in Puerto Rico, that trip that I was just talking about, and all over Minnesota, which doesn't have like the best climbing, but I'm definitely motivated to go other places since travel is something that's really important to me too. And I've sort of tried to base my life around some overarching goals, and travel is definitely one of them. So I've been to a whole bunch of different countries, and try and make time for that every year to, yeah, visit like different cultures and see different parts of the US because it's a little bit hard for me to stay in one place too. But Minnesota
Hmm.
is my home base.
Right.
I am also a photographer. I am self-taught. Well, my husband also sort of taught me. He got me into it. And I really enjoy taking pictures of plants specifically because I'm kind of a naturey person. Along those lines, just being active and getting out. I enjoy longboarding, which is something I never thought I would hear myself say because I'm not the most coordinated person. But yeah, it's been really fun learning that, doing yoga, and like Mims, I'm very into books. I can actually sit down and read. I was yeah, I totally get the like not being able to just sit still, but I was always like the kid who would rather just be like sitting and reading a book instead of like going out and like running around and playing games. I was just like, I'm super content with a book.
I wish I was like that. I wish I could sit down because what I do is like I'll put my audiobook on and I will
Mhm.
be like doing something else at the same time. And there's a lot of people that like can't do what I do. Like they can't focus on listening
Right.
to the audiobook while they're doing other things, and that's the only way that I can do it.
That's
Um,
interesting.
yeah, it's super weird. I don't know why.
Yeah, I feel like the only way I could listen to a book is maybe if I was driving, like a podcast.
Yep.
Otherwise, I feel like I'd be too distracted.
It's super weird because I'm doing like I'm taking a shower and I'll have it in the background and I like hyper focus on that, or I'm like doing the dishes or like cooking and I can still focus on that as well.
Yeah.
Um it's weird. I know people that will listen at like 3 times the speed
Oh my gosh.
and I'm like, what? I
How
don't
are
know
you
how you do that.
digesting any of that information?
I don't know. I have no idea. I'm not at that level yet.
Maybe one day.
So let's move on to what we do professionally. So I got a degree in paralegal studies, but I didn't love it. So I made several career changes, and it kind of brought me back to being a real estate investor. Right now, I'm working for like a private management company here in the Valley in Wisconsin.
Mhm.
So I'm managing about 200 properties, apartment complexes, and it's basically what I think I'm meant to do because I have a lot of fun doing it. Um, yeah, so I'm basically I had a job before in this, and then I left that job, and then I went to like the corporate world,
Right.
and then now I'm back to doing this job. So I think it just keeps bringing me back because I like it so much.
Yeah, it's definitely something that you're so passionate about. And for those of you who have listened to this podcast the last year, you know how like into real estate Mims is and how knowledgeable. So it's definitely, it seems like the perfect fit for you.
Right, right.
Yeah, so like Mims, I also have made several career changes throughout my life. And I think that's just something about the two of us being like busy people who are interested in a lot of things. And so I originally have a bachelor's in environmental science. And shortly after working in that field, I fell in love with photography and videography and started working with some local businesses doing their social media. And I really fell in love with that and started making a living doing that. So I ran Star Media full time for like 4.5 years. And then really just decided that I needed a change because it wasn't the most consistent income. And there were certain aspects of it that I just wasn't really enjoying anymore. And really wanted something that offered a bit more stability and more money so I can, travel and do the things in my free time that I really enjoy doing. So I decided to go back to school for software development, and I have finished my first year in school. So I have one more. Thank you, Mims. And I am 2 weeks into a software developer internship for a really awesome company that I'm really enjoying it so far. It's been really fun. So yeah, whole wide background of doing lots of different things, but I think that's what keeps life interesting.
Yeah, exactly. Like I hear people that say, "Oh, I've been at the same job for like 20 years. I've never
Yeah.
really liked it, but like I'm here because that's all I've known." And I'm like, "Ugh,
Mhm.
I couldn't do that. I couldn't just
Yeah.
sit at a job that I did not like."
No, me either. That honestly sounds like one of my like fears is just like
Mm,
being
mhm.
in this position, or even if it's not a job, but just doing something in your life where you're not happy and just continuing to do it and not wanting to make a change. That's
Yeah.
really something that like I'm against. Like I think your life should be meant to be lived to the fullest. And if you're choosing to just continue to do the same thing and just sort of being stagnant, then that just seems like a really unhappy way to live.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what do we do for passive income? If you are new to this a podcast and like this is where you start off, well, we will explain everything. But if
Yeah.
you have been along for the journey this entire time, you kind of know what we are into by now. So obviously a big one for me is investing in real estate. I love everything about it. I think it's given us the financial freedom. I know it has given
Yeah.
us the financial freedom that we have desired. We're low on the totem pole when it comes to like investing in real estate. So we're in no way like one of the big dogs out there where we're like flying on private jets because of it.
Right.
So but it's enough to like supplement one of our incomes if it
Mhm.
was like necessary for us not to work or if we just didn't want to work.
Yeah.
Um, I also make jewelry, so I do that with resin. I haven't done it in a long time. I like Lexi and I have discussed there's nothing wrong with picking up a hobby and then putting it down for a while and then picking it back up. And I'm just like in one of those phases where I put it down for a while. But I would go to like craft shows and like sell them there. I also do podcasting. So if you do it right, you can make income off of that. I used to do another one, but we had to close that one down just because of life.
Yeah.
So, just have the one podcast now and then reselling. So I love reselling off of Depop, Poshmark, eBay. I find treasures like at garage sales, thrift stores, and I buy them for cheap and then I flip them for a profit.
Yep. And we have a whole episode sort of where Mims talks about thrifting and how you can actually like make money on that too. So if that's
Yeah.
something you're interested in, if you're a shopper, then definitely check that out.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like Mims, I'm also a real estate investor, and that's really what connected the two of us. Well, one of the things that connected the two of us and inspired us to make this podcast is that we're both into real estate. We have a couple of duplexes, and I want to put this under for my category of passive-ish income because
Yeah.
my strategy is it can be a little bit hands-on. But in the grand scheme of things, and I'm thinking about like the money that I'm making compared to working like a 40-hour week job. And like it's really, I would consider it passive at that point. But
Yeah.
yeah, I have a couple of midterm rentals that I furnished and rent out to people who are traveling and just need a place to stay for a few months at a time. Do lots of home renovations and all sorts of things to try and make my rentals the best places that they can be for people to stay.
Yeah. Absolutely. You make them beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. It has
Hmm.
been with a lot of love, a lot of love
Yeah.
and effort and money too. Um,
Absolutely. Nice.
it's definitely an investment because the things that I'm doing now, like at this house specifically that I'm living in and recording this podcast in, has been like many, many, many thousands of dollars put into it that we haven't seen probably haven't seen back in rent yet, but once it's finished and we keep these rentals for years to come, that's really going to make a big difference.
Yeah, absolutely. You can just tell all of like the hard work and the money and the effort that you put into it. So it's definitely not like lost on people.
Yeah, thank you. And then the other form of passive income that I have is selling photo prints. I have a Instagram page called Rooted Prints, like Mims with her jewelry making. It's sort of been on the back burner for me for a little bit just because life happens and
Yeah.
I'm so busy and like going back to school and sort of my life has been changing a lot. So it's definitely something that I love to do and I still take pictures, I still post them, but I haven't updated my photography site in a while, but if you are interested in looking at some photo prints and maybe getting some wall art, that is still out there.
Yeah, I purchased one of Lexi's
Mhm.
wall art. It's beautiful. I have it in my bedroom. I every time I look at it, I'm like, oh, it's so beautiful. It's I forget what it was called.
It was
But
a cathedral in Cologne, Germany.
yes,
Yeah.
beautiful, beautiful. I look at it every day and I'm just like, oh my gosh, that's like my aesthetic right there.
That makes me so happy.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk about how we met. We met through our mutual friend bachelorette party. I
hmm
kind of like just clung on to you because I thought you were so cool, and I'm like, we're gonna be friends after this.
Yeah, I totally feel the same way because so Mims and I grew up like in the same area, but we never actually knew each other when we lived within, 10, 15 minutes of each other. So I had
Yeah.
already moved to the Twin Cities and then I went back to go to this bachelorette party and I was walking in knowing the bachelorette and literally nobody else. So but yeah, Mims was just so friendly and inviting right off the bat. And I think we just clicked being like two Latinas in the group and being like short and having so
Yeah.
many shared interests. And I
Yeah.
remember one of the themes for like we did like a photo shoot was this like floral print, like really cute like outfit idea. And I had literally nothing floral print. And so Mims brought me a dress and I'm like, okay, like she's a real one.
Yeah, I am a real one when I have backup dresses.
Yep. Exactly.
So we have a lot in common and we had to like sit down and talk about all the things that we have in common. Um, because it's a lot.
It
It's actually
is.
pretty crazy. So obviously we are both Hispanic women. She is from Puerto Rico originally. I'm from Guatemala originally. Um, we're both entrepreneurs. I think it's just in our blood at this point.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, so we also come from single parent homes. I think we were both raised by our mothers. Is
hmm
that correct, Lexi?
Yeah. Yeah, I saw my dad on occasion,
Same.
more so when I was younger, and then as I got older, it was really just my mom raising me, and now I don't have a relationship with him at all. So, yeah,
Right.
definitely the single parent home.
Hmm. Sobriety has been a big thing as far as in my life. And then when I met you, it's been really fun to talk about. And just like when we do see each other on the rare occasion, it is really nice to know that like I have friends that won't like get stupid drunk with me
hmm
or like around me,
Right.
or like just be excessive with drinking. And not that any of my friends are like that, but it's nice to know that somebody else isn't like drinking at the table.
Yeah, especially when a lot of the times when we are together, it's because I'm visiting for like special occasions. And
Yeah.
so like a lot of times those special occasions come with drinking and
Oh
celebrating.
yeah.
And it is really nice to have someone where like the other person is on the same level as you.
Absolutely, because there's like nobody really else. Not that like my friends need to be sober with me, because that's not their life choice. That's my life choice.
hmm
But it is so comforting to be like, we're on like the no sober train, so like let's just
Right.
party together.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it is. It's something that I value a lot in friendships in my life is having a lot of sober friends because I feel like there's
Yes.
so much more you can relate to, and you know that you're hanging out with that person because you enjoy hanging out with them as a person and not because you can just get drunk together.
Oh yeah, that's such a good point. And we're also rocking that like no kid life.
Yes.
And I think that's kind of like that's going to be like our thing for a long time or
For
forever.
forever,
So
hopefully.
forever. Yeah. So that's one thing that we can relate on. We
Mhm.
obviously don't hate kids, but they're just not for us.
Yeah.
Like to take care of and be 100% responsible for. That seems like I don't know how people do it,
Yeah, I
like
have
how they
enough to
wrap
be
their heads around
responsible
that.
for.
Right. I'm just like, you're responsible for another human being and then in fact like a very dependent human being. So I'm like, I
Yeah.
don't know how you do it.
Yeah, and it's, when I talk about some of these things, like I have some big life goals, and a lot of those include like travel and like kind of just being able to do whatever I want whenever I want. It's not
Right.
impossible to do with children, but it definitely makes it harder. And as someone who just like doesn't really like have the same like wants as like wanting a family and like those aren't really my goals. It just yeah, living the childless life is definitely like a good thing for me, and I know for you too, Mims.
Yeah. We also have a ton of tattoos all over us, which is, relatable in a sense because, there's some people out there that are like, yeah, you're covered in tattoos. You must be like a gangbanger or something
Oh my
like that.
God.
And
Yeah.
like to still think of it like that way in today's age, I'm just like, I don't know. I know CEOs that have freaking tattoos all over them, so I don't know.
Yeah.
You need to get out
Mhm.
more.
Yeah, when I started this job, I was sort of like asking, I was like, yeah, like a tattoo's okay because I, have a lot of them and I should know if I should be like cognizant of
Right.
not showing them or whatever. And none of my tattoos are scary. It's like I'm just covered in plants. But my coworker is like, yeah, the CEO has a sleeve, so I think you're fine. I'm like, cool.
Right,
Glad that's
exactly.
changing.
Yeah, I mean, as long as you don't have like "fuck you" on your forehead, I feel like you should be
Right.
fine. And then we both lead really active lifestyles, like we mentioned before. And another fun thing, we are both married to white men. It's just like a personal preference for me. I love white men. It's like my jam. And
Yeah,
I
so
know
like
that
the lanky, skinny,
yes,
like athletic type body. Yeah, like we have the same taste in men, which is also just kind of funny.
yeah, exactly. Like for me, the lankier the better.
Oh, that's so funny. Yeah, so it is kind of crazy how we grew up sort of in the same area and our paths never actually crossed until we moved away. But it's been so fun getting to know you in the past couple of years. And especially through this podcast, I feel like I've gotten to know so much more about you since doing this, and it's been so much fun.
Yeah, it has been. So, how did we get into our passive income streams? It's kind of like I think it kind of fell into my lap with investing in real estate. We just kind of like decided not to live with all of my husband's roommates, and we're like, let's get a house. I don't know. We were like 6 or 7 months in, and we're
Oh
like
my gosh.
talking about buying a house. I don't know what came over me, but it happened that way. And my husband was like, "Well, if we're gonna get a house, let's get a duplex." And I'm like, "Okay, that's fine." And that's how it snowballed into all of our other properties that we
Hmm.
bought afterwards. But overall, like I had like promised myself when since I was young, that I would lead a better life than I had when I was a kid. And that also like trickles down from like being poor and just overall not being happy. So this has really helped me in in that promise to myself. And it wasn't really like taught to me by anybody. However, my grandmother on my dad's side is a real estate investor, but like never talked about it for some
Hmm.
reason. um, so Yeah, it's kind of been in my blood, I would say, but it's kind of just self-taught. And then the more that I, was in property management companies and like working, the more that I met like other investors, and that kind of just like taught me so much and then gave like me the fire to like keep going.
Right.
And then for like podcasting, I have been a fan of the morbid true crime, um, and the My Favorite Murder podcast. And I just was like, I can freaking do this. I love true crime. I know a lot of the cases, and I'm not disturbed sitting down and researching it. So let's do it. And that's what got into me with my true crime podcast.
Mhm.
Making my jewelry, I would say, was just like a creative outlet. I think I saw a video, and then I must have been like, I can do that. And then I started doing it, and then I started selling my earrings. So it's kind of like
Mhm.
I'll do something, and then I'm like, oh, I like it. And then I'll just
Yeah.
like try to make money off
Make
of
money
it.
off of it because why not?
Exactly. And then thrifting, I don't know why it just clicked in my head as of this year that I could be making money every time that I go thrifting. I've been thrifting since I was in high school. So um I love going to garage sales, estate sales, thrifting, going on marketplace and seeing like what I can get, for myself. But then I'm like, a lot of these things like that don't fit me or aren't my size or whatever, I know that I can make a profit off of it. And for some
Mhm.
reason, it only clicked as of recently. So that's what I've
Right.
been doing um, on the side as well.
Yeah, I something that you've said multiple times is you see something, you think that it's possible, and you're like, I can do that, and then you fucking do it and you make it happen. And I think that is like the best sort of mindset is like if you're interested in something and you see it and you're like, maybe I can do that even better. Like I have these ideas, then just try it because that's really how you find success in unusual ways and how you
Mm,
make passive income. And I think, Mims, like you talked about coming from a background where your family didn't set you up for success and you didn't come from money and no one really taught you how to do these things. You have to have that sort of attitude to be successful. You have to have that confidence in yourself to be like, I can do that and just make it happen.
right. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for that. I think that was a compliment in there, and
It was.
I'm going to take it. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll talk a little bit about my how I got started in my passive income streams as well. So in real estate, the mutual friend that Mims and I have, so during that like bachelorette and bachelor party when they were getting married, my husband went to the bachelor party and I went to the bachelorette party. And during that time, we had started talking about real estate a little bit. And the mutual friend has a duplex also. And so that was sort of interesting for us and like talking about how we could, potentially make passive income by owning property too. And at that point, I was just living in an apartment. And then once Mims and her husband Jake started talking more about all of their different properties and just how successful they were, Alex and I were like, yeah, let's buy a house. And then as we started that whole process when we were searching, it sort of switched into let's look at a duplex because we know like our friends have been really successful doing this, and it makes so much sense when you can basically have your housing paid for while also maybe making additional money on the other half of your duplex. And so that from there it sort of spiraled too. And now I'm like, doing renovations and all of these things, which is just crazy to me, but it's been a really fun journey and not one that I expected to be on.
Yeah.
And then with selling photo prints, like Mims and her jewelry making business, it really started out as a creative outlet for me, because I really just love I love looking at like a scene, whether it's like nature or like plants or whatever, and taking that and capturing it and sort of manipulating the colors into some sort of making it display what I feel when I see it. So other people
Mm,
can kind of feel that too. And then like writing little like anecdotes about what that moment in time meant to me has been really fun.
mm, yeah.
And as someone who's done photography and videography professionally for other people for years, I feel like I'm really like needed at that time a fun project for myself to be able to remind myself, like, yeah, I love doing photography because I enjoy it. And yes, I can make money off of it, but that doesn't need to be the only reason I do it.
Right. Yeah, and you're so talented at making the pictures, like, with the editing of
Thank
it, like,
you.
it's just so beautiful, and, like, you've done our branding shoots, and
Mhm.
I'm, like, so amazed by how great they turn out, and I know that you put a lot of time and effort into making them polished and just perfection.
Thank you. And I do have to shout out my husband, Alex,
Yeah.
for actually taking the photos of us because he's got a really great eye and
Yes.
he's the reason I got into photography in the first place. But yeah, the editing part of it is maybe what I enjoy even more than taking the photos. So it's been fun.
Yeah, you guys are like my little dream team, honestly, when it
Yeah.
comes to taking pictures. I was like, "You guys are perfect," and it's just, because you have Star Media,
Hmm.
and your husband and wife, you guys, like, come as a package, and I think, like,
Right.
he has the eye for taking the picture, you have, the eye for, like, making it, like, as beautiful as it can be on the other side, and I think it's, like, the best team dynamic.
Yeah, thank you.
Mhm.
It's funny because like we've been together for like a million years and we've
Yeah.
always been like the dream team. Like we worked at McDonald's together and I was working at
Oh!
the front counter and he was in the kitchen and so like that's what people would refer to us as.
You guys are so freaking cute. I cannot take it.
And then with lastly with passive income streams, with podcasting. So Mims invited me to start. I used to make YouTube videos and it sort of just became a lot to do every weekend. And it wasn't really something that I wanted to continue pursuing, but I did miss like having the structure of putting out content like that regularly. And um especially in more of a way that I think is beneficial to people rather than just doing like this is what my weekend looked like little vlogs. I feel like with this
Right,
podcast we're able to really like educate people in a way that makes sense to like a regular person who's not in like business or passive income and all of that. So hopefully we can monetize this podcast at some point.
right. Yeah. So let's do some reflecting, Lexi.
All right.
Um, Looking back on all of the topics that we have covered and everything that we have done on this podcast so far, because we've hit a year now,
Yeah,
which is crazy to me.
I
I
know.
cannot believe that we've been doing this for that long. It just
Every
makes my
single
heart
week.
right. Once a week, putting out content, editing, getting like the episodes together, um, and making the posts for it. It just makes my heart so happy because I feel like A, we're doing things that we want to do. B, I'm having fun with my friend that it doesn't even live in the same state, so I get to
Right.
see you. And C, it's like even if like we don't make money off of it, it's just such a fun hobby to do because I get to just like relinquish all of this information that I've gathered doing all of these different passive income
Mhm.
streams and just like give it to whoever is listening, and to me that's like enough. So
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, just having it out there for people to be able to reference if it resonates with them. And yeah, we've shared so much knowledge on this podcast in the last year. So to wrap up this episode, we can just go through some of those things. So
yeah.
with real estate topics, we've talked about buying properties, running long-term, short-term, mid-term rentals, finding deals, what house hacking is and how to do it, and managing tenants, and so much more. That's just really scratching the surface in some of the things that we've talked about in real estate. With social media, we've talked about different social media strategies, content planning, just generally how to be successful with social media. And along with that comes business. So, branding, passive side hustles, how to design and create your website, how to find clients. And another one of those like buckets that this podcast is about is just how to manage your money in a smart way and
Mhm.
how to like still maintain a lifestyle that you want to live, but with being financially responsible in doing that. So we've talked about budget travel, goal setting. We've given so many book recommendations, both on the podcast and on our social media. And we've had the opportunity to talk with some really amazing, ambitious people on this podcast. We've had
Oh yeah.
tons of interviews with different business owners who are in a whole different variety of fields. So I feel so grateful to have had those people. And Mims and I both are so grateful to have those of you who have stuck around for the entire year we've been doing this while we found our footing and explored these topics that mean so much to us. So thank you to those of you who found us recently, who engaged with us on social media and spread the word that this podcast exists. Here's to our first full year of passive aggressive income and many more to come.
Cheers.
Thank you guys. And as always, we'll see you next Monday.
Yep. Bye.
Bye. Passive Aggressive Income was written, recorded, edited, and produced by co-hosts and creators Mims and Lexi. We truly want to thank our listeners, collaborators, friends, and family that continuously support us for all the love we receive. If you enjoy our show, please give us a glowing rating and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Also, follow us on Facebook and Instagram to see what we are up to. For any inquiries, please email passiveaggressiveincome2023@gmail.com. Episodes of Passive Aggressive Income are available wherever you listen to podcasts, so make sure to subscribe and like us on your favorite streaming platform.